Hello everyone, my name is Jack Myrna, and I'm here to talk to you today about the open water salmon farming industry and its adverse effects on the environment, and also how it affects the wild salmon populations. So first off, I'd like to discuss why salmon farming is even a thing. The demand for salmon in the last 20-30 years has been steadily rising, partly because of how fatty the salmon is. It has omega-3 fatty acids and it's packed with protein, and obviously it's delicious. So it's no wonder why we started commercially fishing these fish and diminishing their wild populations. A perplexed solution to overfishing all of our salmon fisheries, we come up with an idea called aquaculture, which is basically the artificial production of fish. It's like farming, but with aquatic species. This graph shows the world production of salmon and trout, capture fisheries versus aquaculture. And as you can see, in the mid-90s, aquaculture really took a spike, and the capture fishing has really plateaued out and is going back down. There are a few different types of aquaculture, and I'm sure you have seen a few of them, but I'm going to talk about open net farming. So what does this actually look like, or how does it work? So basically it's these large floating nets that are anchored offshore in coastal areas or big freshwater lakes, and the fish, after they're raised in the hatcheries, after about 6 months they're big enough and they're moved to the open water nets, and then they spend the rest of their life there until they're ready to be harvested and moved to consumer markets. So great, now we have sustainably raised a fish in high demand. So what's the big problem? Well, there's a lot of problems that come with salmon farming, including aquatic invasive species, water pollution, and even a concern to us as consumers eating the meat that comes from these hatchery and fish farmed fish. This is a sea lice. Sea lice are copepod crustaceans that have been around for millions of years and not affected wild salmon populations too much. But salmon in open water net farms have no or little defense to these sea lice, and they can wreak havoc on a net farm. These big blooms of sea lice in open water farms can be seriously detrimental to wild salmon populations. The wild populations may have to swim by the open water net farms on their way in and out of a bay or from freshwater to saltwater. Pesticide treatments are often used to combat this sea lice problem, but in recent years, research has shown that sea lice are growing an incredibly fast resistance to these pesticides. The biggest concern with open water salmon farming is water pollution. These salmon are fed antibiotic-rich foods, which in turn are pooped out and dropped directly below them onto the ocean floor, which can result in a layer of organic feces that can be up to 3 feet thick. This results in a large organic pollution problem, which doubles on top of a large inorganic pesticide and chemical pollution problem to our watersheds. However, techniques are being developed to be able to capture the organic waste coming off of aquaculture systems. The last concern is with consumer health. The fish on the top is a farm-raised salmon. The fish on the bottom is a wild salmon. You can obviously see the difference in health and vigor between the two. So the question is, are farm-raised salmon healthy to eat? Well, the short answer from me is no. These fish have been fed artificial foods with high fat contents, antibiotics, PCBs, and even color additives since the day they were born. The high fat content of these farm-raised allows toxins and antibiotics to accumulate throughout the fat rather than flushing throughout the meat. So what can you do as a consumer? Do your research. Please do research on where you're getting your salmon from. Only 10% of the salmon that claim they come from a wild sustainable fishery actually do come from a wild sustainable fishery. As a take-home message, I just want you to think. Think before you eat salmon, and think about what impacts it could be having on the environment or wild salmon populations. I hope after this short presentation that you'll be more informed on the salmon farming industry, including the invasive aquatic species, inorganic and organic water pollution, and the consumer health concerns that go along with eating this salmon. Also, I'd like to give a brief shout out to Dr. Birdie. You've been a great teacher these last 2 semesters, and I'm so sad that we can't have class together anymore, but I hope you have a wonderful rest of the semester.